Hi, this is Will Hull with Tech Service Today. Thanks for joining us for another video in our series on planning and implementing IT projects. What I'm going to be talking about right now is scheduling your full rollout. At this point, you've gotten your documentation together, you've prepared the sites, you've got the site personnel aware of what's going to happen, and you've done your pilot. It's very important that before you schedule your rollout, you do a little pilot phase. If you haven't seen the video yet on piloting, I recommend you go back and watch that before you watch this, because it's going to help you think about this in a different light. When you're doing your full rollout, here's some things to consider. One of the most important things to consider is, what is the impact going to be on your central help desk? Your central help desk has got the normal things that they do in terms of break-fix problems with dealing with end users all the time. When you're running a project, there's going to be additional load on them to tech check-in, tech checkouts, problem solving, testing. Make sure that you're staffing your help desk appropriately. If you've got a lot of techs out in the field, you're going to need a lot of people at your help desk to deal with it. Again, this is part of the importance of piloting. By piloting, you'll have a sense for not only what your times are out in the field, but also how much time that's taking you internally. It may sound a little bit basic, but it is worth noting that you want to make sure that you're taking into account time zones when you're scheduling your rollouts. It's a good idea to stagger the arrival of technicians by time zone so that your central help desk isn't getting slammed with the calls at once. Remember, 8 o'clock on the East Coast is 5 a.m. on the West Coast. You need to schedule accordingly. More often than not with these rollout projects, you're going to need to shift around people's schedules. Either people are coming in earlier, or they're coming in late, or staying late in order to accommodate the project. What we have found is that it's much easier to shift the schedule of the people that work at your central help desk than it is to try to change people out in the field. A, you've got fewer people at your central help desk, and B, you've got more direct oversight and management over them. You're going to get more compliance from your central IT people on a change schedule than you will for people out in the field. So to the extent that you can, change the schedule of your help desk. Don't try to change the schedule as much of people out on the field. Now, when you're scheduling this, you really want to make sure that you're using realistic start times and realistic stop times. And this is based on your pilot. If you've watched that video, you'll remember one of the things that you want to watch out for is what I call the "it should take" syndrome, where you think, well, it should take this long. And you have a tendency to dream and be overly optimistic about how long something's going to take. So by doing that pilot, you've got real empirically validated times that you can use to schedule, and make sure you've got enough room in the schedule to handle it. You also want to make sure that you pad it a little bit, maybe 10 to 20%. Now, it's not that you're necessarily going to use that time, but you've got some headroom in the schedule so that if you run into a really longer than average troubleshooting situation, for instance, you're not immediately backing up your schedule for the rest of the day. It's better to err on the side of being conservative than being too aggressive. Now, obviously, we all want projects to be done instantaneously. That would be the ideal world. It's not the world we live in. By allowing for some situations to go longer and scheduling that way, you've given yourself some wiggle room when you're inevitably going to run into some problems. Because remember, an average completion time is an average. And there are going to be completion times that are a lot shorter, and there are going to be completion times that are longer depending on the situation. So you want to schedule with some flexibility in there. To briefly recap, make sure that you've got enough coverage on your central help desk to handle all the technicians that you've got calling in. You don't want dead time of technicians just standing around in the field. Be mindful of time zones when you're scheduling. Don't fall into the trap of "it should take" wishful thinking. And finally, make sure that you pad your schedule a little bit so that when you run into some sticky situations, you're not throwing off the schedule for the rest of the day and compounding your problems. I hope this has been helpful for you today. Really appreciate your attention and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.